Mickey Flagger. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Now, for people who want to know what Uncensored is a unofficial talk show as of right now, but I'm trying to turn it into an official talk show. And the whole point I'm making is to show people that even if we're in a disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life. At the same time, turning myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair. But you should never label yourself, and you should prove to people you can still amount to something, and that's the whole statement I'm making. Now, with that being said, it's a normal conversation. You have as much time as you like, and let's get started.
Let's do this.
So, what can you tell me about yourself?
Well, I'm a New York City kid, born and raised. West Side of Manhattan, Hell's Kitchen, Upper West Side. But the neatest thing from my childhood that I remember is that I was born and raised across from the only horse stable in Manhattan. I went to a high school that was the home of the greatest basketball player of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then went to St. John's. Spent time in the military and went to work.
What did he do in the military?
I was a cannoneer.
Do you miss it?
Field artillery. Do I miss it? No. Not at all.
Yeah, my grandfather...
Anytime you put a whole lot of guys together, you have a lot of fun.
My grandfather served during the Army, during World War II.
Okay.
He was stationed over in North Africa and in Italy. He didn't really say much, but he had a lot of cool knives. The only thing he said was he built bridges in the desert, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean.
Well, if you said to me he built bridges, I would think he was an engineer. But building bridges in the desert, I don't know what that means.
I don't know, he never liked to talk about the war.
Nobody likes to talk about the Army. It's kind of like a little segment of your life that you neatly pack up and put away, and once in a while you look at it. I take my medal out, I take my discharge paper out, and I put it away, and I haven't seen it in 20 years.
That would be pretty interesting. Would he have a problem? Not to pry, but I like to make every interview different. If you have pictures you like to show or medals, that would be pretty cool.
I would have to go and dig them out. I mean, I really just, bury them.
Maybe for a second interview.
Maybe. And then you'd be seeing them ahead of my daughter. And she's 23.
Did she ever talk to you about the Army?
She did recently. She asked me if I was in the Army. I said, yeah. Didn't I ever tell you? She said, nope. That was about it.
Well, how was your time during the Army? Was it stressful? Did you ever get those post-traumatic stress disorders, or you never got combat?
I did not, but I will tell you the truth of that, as I was mentioning before, when you put a whole lot of guys together, you have a lot of fun. And when I got out, I missed all that camaraderie. Now, I don't know how clean we need to keep this conversation, but I'll tell you a funny story if I can use a 4-letter word.
Yeah, it's uncensored. You can say anything you want.
Well, the word most frequently used in the Army is fuck. Let's go get a fucking beer. How the fuck are you? What the fuck you doing now? Have a fucking cigarette? Get the gist? Everything's fuck. No matter who you're talking to. So, when I got out of the Army, as I said, I was kind of missing all the guys because there was always somebody to go and play basketball with, somebody to go and have a beer with. And I'm laying in my bedroom. This is an apartment on the west side. And my parents are having a welcome home party for me. My sisters are there with their kids, and my brother-in-laws, and my father, my girlfriend, her mother. My mother's cooking. And I, like most people, when you get out of the Army, you take some of your money and you go to the PX and you buy yourself a stereo. bought myself a stereo, and at 8 in the morning I was putting it up and hammering it in the wall and everything. And then I laid back with my hand behind my head and I drifted asleep. So I hear a tapping on the door. My mother, she goes, "Come on out, dinner's ready." And just very matter of fact, I said, "Put the fucking food on the table, I'll be right out." You can imagine that didn't go over well. And I get outside, all I heard was my son. And I get outside, and everybody's looking at me like I just committed murder. So my girlfriend was embarrassed, my sisters were embarrassed, everybody was embarrassed. I don't blame them. My father has a stern look in his face. He goes, "You know, you're not in the barracks anymore." And then he smiles. He says, "I understand." He was there. My mother wouldn't even look at me. I had a, "Mom, come on. How could you talk to me?" I said, "I really didn't, you know." But anyway, I had to clean up my act quickly. That was my memory of coming home.
That's a funny story. Do you have any other funny stories you like to share?
As we go, I'm sure I do. Life has been very, very kind. I have a way of stepping back and seeing myself in a situation.
Well, how did you make the transition from being a, I'm not trying to shoot myself in the foot, but people refer to people as army brats, or...
Well, I wasn't an army brat. Army brat is somebody that's born to, let's say your father's in the army, and you're born on base, you know, at a army hospital, and you were raised in army schools and stuff like that. I'm from the west side of Manhattan. I went into the service kind of after my third year in college. So when I got out of the service, I went back and finished college. And I got all my life. And transition wasn't a tough one, except I had to stop using the F word. And every once in a while it would slip, and now, you know, I'm over that. A few days later. So that was that. I got out of St. John's. I was a computer science major, and I went to work as a programmer. And I had a fraternity brother who we had lost touch because, you know, he was my age, and we went to the same high school. And, you know, he graduated 2 years ahead of me. And he said, he called me up one day, he said, "What are you doing?" This is when I was working. And I told him what I was doing. I was programming. And he said, "Mickey, you're not a programmer." He said, "You're a sales guy." He said, and he was working for Xerox. He said, "Come up here, I can get you into Xerox. This is where you belong." And sure enough, I went up, he got me an interview, and I got hired. And a month later, he took a job, went to South America, and I've not seen him since. But we stay in touch, you know, phone calls and stuff like that.
Well, when you were in the Army, what areas did you go to?
I was, was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was in Fort Sill, Fort Ord, Fort Hood, and home. Maybe not in that order, if that's close.
All right, well, I don't mean to pry. I know for some people, for the Army, talking about the Army, it's kind of stressful. Or I don't mean to impose on you.
No, it's really not stressful. It's just, you know, it's put away.
All right, well, how did you make...
Much life now.
Like I was saying before, how did you make the transition from serving in the Army to becoming an actor?
Well, I had many years when I was in the IT industry. I was computers, and I went into sales after I got out of programming, and then I got hired into Tandem Computers. And two of the deals that I did while I was at Tandem made the Wall Street Journal. From there, Tandem was sold to Hewlett-Packard. I had various jobs after Tandem. As a consultant, software, that kind of stuff, sales of software, consulting. And then the end of 2008 came along, and it was the Great Recession. And my company went under. So I spent, from January of 2009 through June, calling everybody I knew. contacts, friends, customers. And you can only call your friends and contacts and customers so often before they won't answer the phone. They know what you want. If anything breaks, they call me. And I believe that. I just was looking for somebody to talk to. I was getting lonely. And driving everybody home insane. So at the end of June, the middle of June, I said, I've got to reinvent myself. And what I decided I was going to do, after I took the summer off and thought about it, I was going to become a medical transcriptionist. Because one of the industries that I had worked in, aside from telephony, was pharmaceutical industry. So I could spell most of those crazy words, or close enough. And I could type, you're in the computer industry enough, you'll type well enough. I could type about 60 words a minute. So I said, okay, I'll become a medical transcriptionist. And while I'm searching for schools, I also am a veteran. And I was down in a veteran's uniform store in Hackensack called Soames. And while I was down in Soames looking for ordering my veteran's uniform, there was this beautiful young lady with a New York City police uniform over the lawn. And so, being from the city, I said, so what precinct are you in? And she looked at me like I had 5 heads. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I saw the New York City police uniform. I figured you were, a cop. She goes, oh, no, I'm on Law and Order. I'm one of the assistant directors. And I said, really? And I said, don't mind me, but what's an assistant director? She says, well, there's several of us, and depending on what your number is, assistant director 1 helps the director, number 2 helps the aide, first AD, and so on and so forth. She says, I'm here getting a uniform. And I said, that's really neat. And she says to me, so what shows have you worked? And I said, what do you mean? She says, I thought you were one of our actors. No, not. She said, she asked me what I was doing for myself, and I told her the same story I told you. I said, well, out of work. And she said to me, well, if you just want to get out of the house, and you just want to, break the monotony of staring at a computer monitor, this coming winter. She said, why don't you try some background? I said, what do I got to do? She said, just go down to Central Casting, sign up. They'll take some information about you, and they'll start sending you casting calls. And I said, and then what? She said, well, you'll apply, and if they like you, they'll cast you. Said, that's all I got to do. She goes, yep. I said, what about unions? And she goes, unions will take care of themselves. Don't worry about that. You'll be working non-union for a while. I said, well, it's a thought, because I was, now it's like, the end of September, and I'm facing another winter, right? Just sitting in my office, going crazy. So around, I guess, November, I decided I was going to go down to Central Casting and sign up, and I did. And sure enough, in I guess it was early December, I answered one of those casting calls for Law and Order, original Law and Order, and they were going to cast me as a lawyer. So I put on a suit and tie, and I go to work that day. And when I got there, they gave me a feature my first day out. I mean, I've never seen the episode. People have it says, I'm right there, right, between the defendant and his attorney. I look like I'm, a lawyer that's busy doing things, and I'm actually doing nothing. But I guess I look really good doing nothing. That's something. And I was really happy. It wasn't hard work. When I got outside, the guy who was taking care of the actors said, wow, they really got you good. You had a lot of face time. That's really neat. He says, too bad we won't see you for a while. I said, how come? He said, well, with background actors, when you get featured, they don't bring you back because, the next time you bring you back, you might be a dead body. Or you might be a criminal. And he said, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that call us and say, wasn't this guy a lawyer and now he's a dead body? What happened? How did he die? He said, in order to avoid all of those calls, we just, keep the background. He said, if you're not featured, it's one thing. If you're featured, we just don't use you for a while. So that's good to learn. And that was the very last time I worked Law and Order because they went off the air that year. So the next thing that happened right after the holidays was I submitted for a role on Law and Order SVU. And we were filming in front of the New York Times building. over on the west side of Manhattan, the old New York Times. And what they call holding is a place where actors go to, change into their wardrobe, and get their hair and makeup taken care of, all that kind of good stuff before you go on set. And the set was that day they looked at the New York Times building. So this little Catholic grammar school that I was familiar with, simply from my days at the West Side, has a gymnasium that you could fit maybe 50 people in comfortably. And they had a couple hundred people in for lunch. So everybody was sitting with everybody else. And I happened to wind up at a table with, I guess it was one of the assistant directors and his boss and something like that. And they're talking about those two actors over there that have police uniforms on. And the reason they're going to get their pension this year is because they got on this show, and they were saying, but next year they wouldn't be able to help. And they're having, industry talk that I was just not familiar with. And they asked me a question. They said, how is your pension going? And I said, I don't understand what you mean. He said, oh, you must be a newbie. I said, yes, I am. This is my second show. And we're talking back and forth. He said, how do you like it? I said, well, so far it's fine. He said to me, well, what do you want to do with yourself in this industry? I had never thought about that. In my mind, I guess I was still in the, IT industry. And I said, well, give me a sec. And I thought about it, and I said, I want to be a bad guy. The guy looked at me, he said, nah, you're not a bad guy. He said, you're a guy in a suit, a guy in a tuxedo, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a guy at a bar picking up women, you're a guy in a bar that women are throwing their drinks on. He says, think Upper East Side. And he said, I've got the perfect show for you. You have to get on Gossip. He said, are you familiar with it? I said, no, I'm not. He said, well, it's a TV show. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Gossip Girl?
Heard a bit, never watched it.
Yeah, no, I never saw it either. But he said, you've got to get on this. He said, it's about college kids loving and living on the Upper East Side and getting into all sorts of trouble. He said, you'd be one of the adults that would fit that role. He said, when you get there, talk to Heather. She's the director, or the first assistant director, and give her my best. So I submitted. I got on Gossip Girl, and I met Heather, and I said, hey, how you doing? I just want to let you know that Jeremy said if he was best. She goes, oh, you're the guy. Come over here. I got something for you. And for the next 3 years, I worked with Gossip Girl a lot.
Did you enjoy it?
You know what? It was different. One, I got to know the characters, and I got to know the the flow of it, so to speak. It's still, I've still to this day never seen the TV show in full. But I had a lot of fun working. I certainly learned the industry. And it was because of my work on Gossip Girl that I got into the Screen Actors Guild. And I was very happy with that. I mean, that's one of the nice things they did.
Yeah.
And then I thought,
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
Sure, that's all right. Go ahead. Ask me a question.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of look like Bryan Cranston a little bit.
Oh, okay. I've been told I look like Larry Hagman. The other day I was told I look like Tom Hanks. So I have a feeling that I look like everybody differently, or somebody that they think I should look like, And nobody's happy with how I look. I got to look like somebody else.
Yeah, but it's funny, you look like Bryan Cranston, but you sound like Stan Lee. So I have that going for you.
Okay, that's great. Now I can't picture Bryan Cranston. Give me some help here.
Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned you're in the city. Yeah, how did you handle Hurricane Sandy?
Well, right now I live in Paramus, New Jersey. I got married. Live in Paramus, but I still have lots. Having gone to high school and grammar school and college in New York, and I went to St. John's, and about 20 of my fellow alumni from Howard Memorial went to St. John's. There's a lot of us around, so I still have a lot of those friends, and plus the new friends I've made over the years, and they're all New York City centric or right around it. So I still spend a lot of time in New York with my buddies. Even on Sundays, I'll go bike riding in Central Park with some of them. That kind of stuff. And being in Paramus, I'm only about like a bike ride over the bridge, or less than 20 minutes to the Upper West Side.
All right. Well, do you like New Jersey more than New York, or are you more a New Yorker than a New Jersey person?
Oh God, yeah, I miss New York. I mean, I find it very difficult to sleep when there's no trucks running past my window. Believe it or not, it's very comforting. But there's some very beautiful things about New York that the average New Yorker takes for granted. The people that don't go there a lot don't get to experience. As an example, go to New York in the autumn when the trees are turning. You don't kind of picture New York with orange leaves on Park Avenue, and it's just something different. It's something spectacular to see. Go to New York during a snowstorm, and the first thing you'll notice is how quiet it is. Now, New York City is a very noisy city. The snow dampens all that noise, and that's the first thing that always would strike me is just how quiet the city is with the snow. I mean, they have not a little flurry or two, but when you're going to get 10 inches, it's just a different way of looking at New York City, or listening to New York City.
Well, you bring up a good subject while we're on the New York City thing. What do you think about what's all the shootings going about? And that's our next subject. Where you stand on gun control. But with everything going on with the media, where do you stand about it? Do you think that people are just blowing it out of proportion, or
I don't know, because I don't get a lot of time. I know what's going on. I certainly know what's going on. I don't have a lot of time for in-depth stuff because I work crazy hours. I'm sorry it's going on. Look, these are my fellow Americans getting shot. I certainly don't want to see that. And even if the guy was guilty of something, I don't want to see him get shot. If he's guilty of something, due process. I'm generally not in favor of killing my fellow American citizens, unless some police officer feels his life is in jeopardy. I mean, really in jeopardy, not just insane. And then he has a right to protect his life. But generally speaking, I'd rather just let cooler heads prevail. Take this off the street, and then handle it off the street. Because, look, if you're in New York enough, you're going to come into conflict, make contact with police officers. You just put your hands up, whatever they ask you to do, and just let them do it. The quicker you get through it, the quicker it's over.
Now, the next thing I was going to ask you, while still on gun control, do you think there should be more restrictions and more? Do you think people are taking advantage of the rights they have? Is that why there's so much problems?
Well, I mean, look, you can understand why a city on any given day with 10 million people and only 30,000 police officers have a problem with people carrying guns that aren't registered. At one point in time, I carried a gun with a pistol permit, a New York City permit to carry. I was working for Consolidated Edison when I got back out of the Army as a night job. And I would be the guy who would go around and make sure that the rented cars were awake and doing their job. And if there was any kind of a problem, I would be called to do whatever it was I was called to do. So I mean, in those days, and when you have a permit to carry in New York, you have to carry it. You have to carry the permit along. And I got to tell you, the moment I left the job, I didn't miss carrying the gun.
Now, when you say carrying a gun, you mean a gun, not like a AK-47 or some shit like that.
I had in those days a permit to carry a concealed weapon. It was a 38 revolver.
Mm-hmm.
You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, it was a 38 revolver.
But that's still not like an automatic.
No, it's not an automatic.
Well, that's the problem with people today. They think, oh, it's and I do support the Second Amendment. But they think, it's my right, the Second Amendment, to have this AK-47 or automatic. He says, that's not your right. Your right is to have a gun, not a freaking assault rifle.
Well, yeah, sure. You shouldn't own a tank either that's fully loaded. I would agree with that. But even to each. What it is that I believe firmly that each municipality, can not restrict, but can limit the way you have a gun. I mean, look at Texas. Everybody in Texas can carry a gun. It seems to work for them down there. You don't hear. Well, I don't look at the Texas. But you don't hear a lot of people getting in gun plays down in Texas. On the other hand, you hear more people probably getting in gun fights in New York. And still, I prefer to live in New York than Texas. I mean, any day of the week. And New York was a very dangerous place when I was there. It's so much nicer now.
Well, you bring up a good point, not to say, trying to find the word for it. What is the difference? Like, think when you were a kid, and look at it now. Do you think things got better, or do you think things got worse?
I think things got a whole lot better. When I was 13 years old, myself and my buddy Carlos witnessed a murder. Murder took place about 30 feet from us. I don't think a lot of young boys have to witness that. So I'm happy. I'm sure there are some, but if you think about 1991, it was about 2,000 murders a year in New York City. Now it's down to about 325, somewhere in there. I forget the exact number. And that in itself is an indication of crime in general. I think the population stabilized. I think the immigrants that came here had children, and they were more New Yorkers than they were, say, Italian or Puerto Rican or French or whatever they were. And they became more New Yorkers. And New York City is a great environment for mingling with people of different, faith, creeds, nationalities, colors, races, whatever. I went to school with many different nationalities. And I think the more you're exposed to people that think differently, the more you're able to deal with them.
Well, before we get to the
advocating for everybody, but it seemed to have worked for me.
All right. Well, before we get to that subject, let's finish up the gun control one. Like I said, I support the Second Amendment, but there should be stricter rules. If someone's handicapped, mentally challenged, a criminal, felon, these people should be on a list of being banned from having, you get the bullshit, it's my right. If you're a threat to someone, that right should be taken away, and those people should be on a list of never getting their hands on a firearm.
Well, aren't they banned from? I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. Aren't they banned? If you have a felony record, you can't get a gun. You can get a gun illegally anyway.
That's true, but then the excuse is, he was in prison, he's rehabilitated, and it's like I say, I killed this person, but I served my time in prison, but I'm rehabilitated. That makes me a better person. It's kind of like, it's just stupid. You can use the race card about it, but, it's, if you take a life, or if you're mentally fucked up or just disturbed, these people, and it would be beneficial for everyone, for those people, to have their rights taken away. But what it comes down to, it's money.
Well, maybe it is. I don't know that it's not. But you've also hit a seam in the system when it comes to gun control. You have the U.S. Constitution that kind of is a general overall umbrella about what goes on, like everybody has a right to do it. And you have the different municipalities and states that can tell you how you do it. And sometimes, I guess one state will let you do something another state won't do. I'm not sure if Texas has any restrictions on guns. Once you're out of jail, I think you can get a gun. I don't know that to be a fact. But I'm just surmising that every state and every municipality from here to California does it differently, sometimes slightly, sometimes greatly. If you wanted to do something like that at a national level, to either prohibit or to allow, then you got to muck about with the Constitution. That's its own nightmare.
All right. Well, wrapping up, do you have any funny stories you would like to share, or do you have anything you want to say to your fans and listeners?
Keep watching. I got a lot of. I'll tell you one thing that really happened there with me from all that time on Gossip Girl. I was recognized 3 times. You know, because when you're in the same show and somebody watches it, they kind of pick up on you. You know, on 3 different occasions, I was recognized, which was really neat. First time I was heading downtown in a cab with a friend of mine. Actually, a couple friends of mine. And the cab driver turns around and asks me where we're going. Before I could tell him, he looks at me and goes, "I know you." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm a native New Yorker." No, I'm from Cairo. And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, I went to college." He goes, No, I went to college, University of Cairo. I don't think it was that, but, I went to college in Cairo. And I said, "Well," he says, "you're on Gossip." I said, "Yes." He goes, "I like your character. I think that year I was a senator or something. I like the character that you play." I said, "Well, thank you very much." I got out of the cab, I said, "Wow, this, middle-aged guy watches Gossip. That's interesting. They have that kind of a span of an audience. I thought they were more below 30. Here's a guy above 50. And it was just neat being recognized. That following summer, I went into a Panera's out in Wayne, New Jersey it was hot day, to get a lemonade. And I had, believe it or not, never been in a Panera's. I walked into the door, and this woman about 30 years old walks from behind the counter, comes up to me and starts to talk to me. And she introduces herself as the manager. And she's going on and on about Panera's. "Have you ever been here before?" I said, "No." And she's telling me about the menu. And she's pulling me aside, and the line is backing up behind me. She says, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you." And, she's telling me all about this, and have you tried this, and have you tried that? And I said to her, "Do I know you?" And she goes, "No." She said, "But I know you." I said, "How?" She goes, "I watch Gossip Girl." I said, "Oh, thank you." And then she asked me, what's, oh my God, who are the stars? Blake Lively like. And I said, "If I ever find out, I'll let you know." She's a star. She doesn't deal with me. She said, "You guys don't go out and party?" I said, "Not a lot." And what's Kelly like? Kelly Rutherford. She's a lovely lady. She's about the only star I talked to in there briefly. So he was disappointed that I didn't know all these people. But she knew me, she recognized me. And the third time, I was doing some promotional modeling. I think it was down in Atlantic City. Come on in and spend some money, we'll see if we can bankrupt you, that kind of stuff. And, guy comes up to me and he said, "Would you take a picture with me?" I said, "Sure." I had somebody take his camera phone. He said, "Would you sign an autograph for my daughter?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Now, how do you know me? Where do you see me?" He goes, "Gossip Girl." I said, "Okay, what's your daughter's name?" I got her name, and I said, "To Anna." Thinking, keep watching XOXO Mickey. Now, XOXO is the way Gossip Girl signed off. He said, "She'll love this." I'm kind of sorry Gossip Girl went off the air. I was 2 more years I'd have been a star myself. So that's my wrap-up on Gossip.
Well, give it time.
Yeah, look, I'm not in a rush.
Well, wrapping up, do you have anything you want to say to your fans and listeners?
Well, certainly, if you see me on the street, come up and say hello. I'll be nice to you.